The streets of Berlin were witnessing this event. A German engineer was standing in front of the Berlin's patent office to receive a patent for his new invention, which was a vehicle powered by a gas engine. This took place on the 29th of January 1886. Able to guess what it was? Well, it was an automobile, the top-notch road cars, and that engineer was none other than Carl Friedrich Benz. The first kind of this automobile was put in production by himself in 1889, and since then, this piece of science and machinery has evolved over the years and has made history as the road cars. So that was about the automobile industry. But later, in the earlier 20th century, some deep-pocketed Europeans thought of flaunting their wealth by purchasing these swift and expensive cars, just for their pleasure. But this pleasure was seen by the car manufacturers as an opportunity to popularize their brands, and so they multiplied their production to compete with their rivals. Those who could afford hired trained drivers for their cars, and thus sports car racing was becoming familiarized. Soon, many governing bodies emerged to govern these races and to impose strict regulations on the features of the cars. These regulations came to be known as the Formula Libre. And by this time, a lot of car companies had become independent organizers who could run their own racing teams with racing drivers. Thus, sports car racing was now a distinct form of racing. Later, in 1946, some open-wheeled fast cars were separated from the other cars in the market to compete with each other. An organization called the FIA was put in charge of conducting such races. Subsequently, in 1950, the first kind of this championship took place, known all over the world as the Formula One World Championship. Considered as the most prestigious forms of motorsports, which gave us innumerable legends such as Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, Ayrton Senna, and also gave immense recognition to this word, motorsports. So that was about motorsports. But I'm not here to talk about motorsports. I'm here to talk about how motorsports has enlightened me and how it can enlighten you. So I'm a big fan of motorsports and particularly Formula One racing. I started watching F1 last year, and I not only got to learn about racing and the science behind the cars, but I also got to learn about a lot of life lessons which have aligned my thought process and my self-management skills. And these are what I want to share with you. So my first lesson is be patient. This is a lesson which I could have learned elsewhere, but I realized its importance only through motorsports. Maybe all my previous learnings had prepared me for this, and motorsports has taken the credit. As a student, my duty is to do well in academics, but this becomes quite stressful during the exam times and especially during my maths paper. Whenever I'm not able to solve a problem, I just give up on the problem and get demotivated. But you know what I did once when I was tackling such a problem? I just wrote down what was given and what was not given. And based on that, I wrote my first step. And then the second step came automatically, and so did the third one. And as I proceeded, I got some clarity and I went on to solve the answer. Amazing, right? This was a question which I thought was impossible, but which became possible because I was patient and was present at the moment and thinking properly how to write. Similarly, in motorsports, you try to cut down the gap between you and the racer in front of you lap by lap. It is not done in just one miracle lap. You have to be patient and wait for the right moment to overtake. And remember, no hasty decisions or no swiftness without clarity. So my second lesson is that don't be afraid of taking risks. This is a kind of a lesson which people usually learn through their experience. But I was fortunate enough to learn this through motorsports at a very young age. So I have taken the opportunity to participate in TED without knowing the challenges which I would have to face in future. I would not be sure how I would balance between my academics and the talk preparations. Talking of preparations, you know what? This year, I was chosen as the student mentor of the quiz club of our school. At the beginning, I didn't know what that even was. But still, I accepted the offer and took that risk. Initially, I found it very difficult to balance between my academics and the club related preparations. But soon, I learned to balance both. And my juniors who attended my sessions actually got to know about me and I became quite popular amongst them. And this made me feel very responsible and motivated me to go further. And this is how taking small risks can actually be beneficial to you and lead you to a very bright and successful future. My third lesson is that expect the unexpected. This is my most favorite learning out of all the others. What it means is that things can turn around in any way and you should be prepared to face them. We don't know what will happen to us tomorrow or the very next second. Should always be prepared. Similarly, whenever my exam scores are announced, I actually don't have any expectations. I just get prepared to receive my scores because I know the quantum of my preparations, and so I just wholeheartedly accept my scores. Actually, having no expectations prevents me from getting demotivated or disappointed. Whereas I've seen a lot of my other friends who get hugely disappointed because they set certain expectations. So my fourth lesson is that set your own strategies. This is a very interesting lesson, which is, you can say, the key to win any race. What I have observed is that even if you don't have the required resources, a good strategy will always lead you to victory. And in motorsports, it plays a vital role. Everything from what type of car to go with, what fuel strategy to use, what type of tires to use, everything has to be planned strategically before the race. But doing as you wish is not bad. Even I was the kind of a person who never believed in planning before working. I just did as I wished. But what I found out is that doing as you wish is actually good. But doing that in a strategic manner will only lead you to everyday success. And this skill of planning has actually helped me to manage myself and all of my other works. Similar to these, each sport and game has its own set of values and skills. We should not only be a mere spectator of any sport, rather we should read between the lines and imbibe the values imparted by it. Most people think that motorsports is a very boring game because it's all about cars going round and round the track. But if we keenly observe the small battles, the internal rivalries, the urge of being always at the top without the slightest compromise to safety, will also turn you to be a regular spectator. I guess that those minute reckonings of mine would be as helpful to you as it were for me. And these were the lessons which I had mentioned as the Formula 1 to success. Thank you.